Millennials, perhaps the last people on the planet who remember the world before the internet. They remember a time when, to find a person, you simply had to go to their home. When you couldn't take a photo 47 times just to choose one normal one. When a map was made of paper. When music ended on a cassette. When the phrase, "I'll call you back," really meant that the person would call you back. And then, within one generation, something incredible happened. The internet appeared, then social media, then smartphones, and now, artificial intelligence, and millennials found themselves right in the middle of this explosion. They remember a world without Google, but already live in a world with AI. And here's the most interesting part. Perhaps that is exactly why they feel today as if they are living in two different eras at the same time. If you also remember modems, discs, button phones, ICQ, the first social networks, and that strange sound of connecting to the internet, subscribe to MilGen right now. Because today we are going to figure out what really happened to the generation that was born in an analog world but woke up in a digital one. And perhaps after this video, you will understand one thing. We didn't become old. The world around us simply became incredibly fast. Millennials. The last generation that remembers the world before the internet. Imagine waking up tomorrow and suddenly the internet is gone. No Google, no Instagram, no TikTok, no YouTube, no messengers. You can't write to someone who lives 1,000 kilometers away. You can't find the answer to any question in 10 seconds. You can't order food with one tap. For some people, this sounds like a catastrophe, but for millions of people, this was ordinary life. They remember a world where the phone stood on a table, a world where a photograph had to be developed, a world where if you didn't know the answer, you had to look for it in an encyclopedia, a world where, to talk to a friend, you had to leave the house. And that is exactly why millennials are one of the strangest generations in history. They were born in an analog world but became adults in a digital one. They remember cassettes, but today they use streaming. They remember button phones, but now they can manage their bank account, work, and social life from a single screen. They still had time to run around outside when their parents didn't know where they were. And then smartphones appeared, and the world changed forever. Remember childhood. Not a phone, not a tablet, not YouTube Kids, but real childhood. You leave the house, and you simply go. No geolocation, no message to your parents every 20 minutes, no AirTag, no smartphone. If a friend lived a few houses away, you simply went to their house. It sounds incredibly simple, but there was one important thing about it. You had to find something to do on your own. Boredom was normal. You could simply sit for hours, look out the window, draw, play with some completely ridiculous object. And nobody thought, I urgently need to entertain the child. Today, it is enough to give a child a smartphone, and the world immediately fills up with content. But back then, if you were bored, you were simply bored. And perhaps it was exactly this boredom that forced the brain to become more creative. Today, a phone is practically part of our body. We wake up and check it. We eat and check it. We go to the bathroom. We take it with us too. We go to bed. The phone lies nearby. Now imagine a millennial's phone in childhood. It could be in the kitchen, or in the hallway, or in an entirely different room. And if someone called you, the entire house rang. And if you wanted to talk to a friend, you had to dial the number. And what if his father answered the phone? You automatically became a very polite person. And this is where real social anxiety began. Today, a child simply writes, "Hi." Back then, you had to get through a security system in the form of the parents. And then the internet appeared. And it wasn't like it is today. Nobody said, "Welcome, you are entering a new digital era." No, one day a computer simply appeared in your home. Big, bulky, with a monitor that took up half the desk, and then someone said, "We have internet now." And it sounded almost magical. But there was one catch. The internet was slow. So slow that loading a web page could become a small life event. And if someone picked up the phone at the same time, that's it. The internet died. Today, a child cannot imagine a world without Wi-Fi, but a millennial remembers the moment when the internet blocked the phone line. Then came chats, ICQ, MSN, forums, the first social networks. And suddenly, people got the ability to communicate with someone they had never even seen before. It was revolutionary, but today it looks funny. For example, an ICQ status could be an entire statement about your life. Do not disturb. Busy. I miss you. Gone. Sometimes people change their status more often than they change their profile picture today. And there were emojis too. And when you received a message for the first time from someone you liked, it was a real digital celebration. Because messages didn't arrive every 10 seconds. Every message meant something. Today, you can take 100 photos in 5 minutes and delete 99 of them. But back then, a photograph cost money. You had film, a limited number of shots, and you didn't know what would come out. You could take a picture of your friend, and they blinked. That's it. The masterpiece was lost. Then you had to take the film to be developed. And wait. And then you received the photographs. Sometimes good, sometimes terrible. Sometimes, in half of the photos, someone's finger was covering the lens. But that was exactly why photographs were special. There were few of them, and that is why people treasured them. Millennials saw two realities, and this is where things get really interesting. Millennials are not simply a generation that uses technology. Almost everyone uses technology today. Their uniqueness lies somewhere else. They remember life without it. They remember how to find your way without Google Maps, how to arrange a meeting without a messenger, how to listen to music without Spotify, how to watch a movie without a streaming service, how to wait. And the word wait has almost lost its meaning today. We wait a maximum of a few seconds. The page is taking too long to load? Annoying. The video is buffering? Annoying. A person hasn't replied for 10 minutes? The first thought is that something happened. But millennials grew up in a world where waiting was normal. And then, the smartphone appeared. The first smartphone changed everything. But the real revolution happened a little later, when the smartphone stopped being a phone. It became social life. Now a person could be present everywhere, but at the same time, nowhere completely. You can sit at a table with your friends and communicate with people who are 1,000 kilometers away. You can watch a movie and read comments at the same time. You can go to a concert and spend half the concert recording it for people who aren't there. The world became more accessible, but our attention became more expensive. A generation between two worlds. Perhaps that is exactly why millennials sometimes find things so difficult today. They remember the old world, but they live in the new one. They can enjoy technology, and at the same time, miss the time when it didn't exist. They can spend the entire day on their phone, and in the evening say, things were better before. And that is not necessarily a contradiction, because they remember both versions of the world. They know what it means to be unavailable, and they know what it means to be available 24 hours a day. They know what it is like to wait for a call, and they know what it is like to receive dozens of messages. They remember that information had to be searched for, and now they live in a world where there is too much information. And now look at modern culture. Cassettes are coming back, vinyl is coming back, film cameras are coming back, retro games are coming back. People are buying phones that look like old ones. Why? Because technology has made life more convenient, but not necessarily calmer. Before, you couldn't check how many people had seen your photo. Now you can. Before, nobody knew who had viewed your profile. Now the algorithm tries to predict it. Before, you didn't need to build a personal brand. You simply lived. Today, you can wake up and think, what am I even doing with my life? And then open Instagram and see a person who bought an apartment yesterday, started a business today, and is already flying to Bali tomorrow. And suddenly your life seems not good enough. Even though 20 years ago it might have seemed completely normal. Millennials and the feeling that they are falling behind. This is one of the biggest changes. Before, people mostly compared themselves with those they knew. Classmates, neighbors, colleagues. Today, you compare yourself with the entire world. You're 30? Someone your age is already a millionaire. 35? Someone already has 3 companies. 40? Someone started their life from scratch and became successful. And the brain receives an endless stream of evidence that you are not fast enough, not rich enough, not beautiful enough, not successful enough. But there is one problem. You are comparing your backstage with someone else's storefront. Are millennials really having a harder time? And here we need to be honest. Not everything can be explained by nostalgia. The world really has changed. Housing in many countries has become less affordable. Work has become more global. Competition has become stronger. Technology has made us more productive. But at the same time, it has allowed work to enter our personal lives. Before, you finished your workday and went home. Today, the workday may end at 6, but at 9:47 p.m., a message arrives. Are you still online? And you are back at work. Technology gave us freedom, and then quietly took away the boundaries. But there is something that makes this generation unique. Millennials have become a kind of bridge. They can understand people who grew up without the internet, and at the same time, they can understand those who cannot imagine life without it. They remember how to record music onto a disc, and today they can create a playlist using artificial intelligence. They remember paper maps and use GPS. They remember libraries and use ChatGPT. They remember a world where information was scarce and live in a world where there is too much of it. This is almost a historical transition. During the lifetime of one person, humanity went from where can I find information to how do I understand which information I can actually trust. And here an interesting question arises. If millennials are the generation that remembers the world before the internet, then what will they remember 30 years from now? Perhaps the world before artificial intelligence, a world where people wrote texts themselves, searched for information themselves, edited videos themselves, drew themselves, translated themselves, programmed themselves. Perhaps 30 years from now, people will say, can you imagine? People used to write emails themselves, and it will sound just as strange as it does to us when someone says, people used to use phone booths. Technology will continue to change the world. And perhaps the main question is no longer how quickly it develops, but rather, can a person change along with it? Millennials often joke that they are already old, but in reality, they are in a unique point in history. They are young enough to master new technologies, and old enough to remember the world in which they didn't exist. They remember a time when you had to wait, and they live in a time when everything happens instantly. They remember a world without constant surveillance, and they live in a world where every step can leave a digital footprint. They remember how simple things were, but they also know how complicated life can be without modern technology. And perhaps that is exactly why millennials are not a lost generation. They are a transitional generation, a bridge between two civilizations, between the analog and digital worlds, between a past that will never return and a future that we haven't even had time to imagine yet. And perhaps 20 or 30 years from now, millennials will be the people who say, I remember what the world was like before everything became digital. And now I'm curious to hear your opinion. Do you remember life without smartphones and the internet? What do you miss most from that time? Write it in the comments. And if you enjoy stories about generations, technology, psychology, and the future of humanity, subscribe to MilGen, leave a like, and share your comment. Because the world is changing faster than we have time to notice. And the most interesting question is not what it will become, but rather, who will we become?